Welcome to Domain 3, Technical Management, Supporting Acquisition and Development. What we're going to talk about in this module, or this domain, is a little bit about the acquisition process, just very quickly just to set the tone. Then we're going to talk about the technical management processes themselves. It's basically a four-step process around initiation, planning, implementation and management, and closing. Basically, systems engineering and system security engineering in the acquisition process supports project management by planning, directing, monitoring, and controlling all the engineering technical work needed to develop, deploy, and sustain a system. It can be usefully thought of as a staff function to help the project manager orchestrate project-wide engineering activities to understand and refine the purpose of the project and develop a balanced design to fulfill those purposes. Now, this is different from project management because project management is primarily concerned with delivering a product or service within cost, scope, and schedule. System engineering and system security engineering is first and foremost responsible for ensuring that the right system is developed to meet the customer's needs and the resulting system is developed right. So let's talk about technical management in acquisition. You can see from this slide that there is a system development lifecycle that has specific system engineering steps. For example, the initiation of the project and then the planning around the project occurs here, and then you see some of the verification and validation steps here. Then, of course, there are some things that happen in operations and maintenance. But the key here is that the PMO milestones and the technical management phases are fully aligned, and the technical work and the technical reviews fully support the project management process. So if you need additional information on the technical management phases, you can actually map the ISSEP CBK technical management phases to the PMI PMBOK, the project management body of knowledge. So as you can see here, it's fairly one-to-one. However, implementing and managing the technical effort actually involves executing processes and monitoring and controlling processes within the PMI PMBOK framework. So let's talk about initiation. Initiation consists of developing project charters, and as part of those, the project planning process, you need to develop requirements, and that's where risks, assumptions, constraints come into play. And then, of course, there's a stakeholder analysis that's important, and then, of course, the technical scope needs to be well defined. So what is a project charter? Well, basically, it's a document that formally authorizes a project or a phase within a project. The project charter documents initial requirements that satisfy the stakeholders' needs and expectations. In multi-phase projects, the project charter is used to validate or refine the decisions made during the previous phase. And as you can see from here, there are various inputs into the project charter, including the project statement of work, a business case justifying the project, any contracts, a description of the enterprise, environmental factors, and any organizational processes and assets that impact the project or support the project. So why do we talk about risks, assumptions, and constraints? Well, risks, assumptions, and constraints basically help define the requirements. You think about it in terms of basically helping determine the project scope, because the project scope contains assumptions and constraints that can impact the development of the project schedule. During planning, the project scope is defined and described with greater specificity as more information about the project is known. That's why the project plan iterates with each phase. Now, existing risks, assumptions, and constraints are analyzed for completeness. Additional risks, assumptions, and constraints are added as necessary. Stakeholder analysis is extremely important because ultimately, at the end of the day, you need to deliver products that satisfy these stakeholders. These stakeholders could be the certification authority, could be the DAA, the project owner, the user community. It could actually be other members within the organization. And so you need to understand who these individuals are. So you need to identify all potential project stakeholders and relevant information such as their roles, departments, interests, knowledge levels, expectations, and influence levels. You need to identify the potential impact or support each stakeholder could generate and classify them so as to define an approach strategy. Then you need to assess how key stakeholders are likely to react or respond in various situations in order to plan how to influence them to enhance their support and mitigate potential negative impacts. I don't know how many times I've been in an organization where a project seems to be going well, and then a stakeholder that you didn't consider took umbrage to something around the project, and the project died a quick death. So this diagram here is somewhat interesting in that it kind of shows you what you need to do in terms of managing your stakeholders. If you think about the interest level of a stakeholder and then the power that that individual has, then you can see the stakeholder treatments, if you will, that would need to be applied. Obviously, if someone had a lot of power and had a very high interest in the project, you would want to manage them very closely. Now, if someone didn't have much influence and they weren't interested, then you really wouldn't need to do a whole lot. You just kind of monitor their interest and support for the program.